Path. The sperm is made in the testes, which are inside the scrotum. The sperm is then transferred and stored in the epididymis. When ejaculation happens, sperm is transferred from the epididymis to the different duct. From here, it travels to the spermatic cord in the pelvic cavity, and then passes through the ureter to the prostate, and it gets to the vas deferens with the seminal vesicle, which forms an ejaculatory cord, which then passes through the prostate and gets out through the urethra with the ejaculation. A structure and function of the internal organs. The sperm is produced in the testes. The sperm then matures in the epididymis. The sperm then leaves the epididymis and enters the vas deferens and is stored. Then the sperm leaves the vas deferens and passes into the abdominal cavity, where it curves around the urinary bladder and gets into the ejaculatory duct that connects to the urethra, which gets the sperm out of the body through ejaculation. That's the structure and function of the internal organs. Production of seminal fluid. The seminal vesicles, prostate gland, and bulbourethral gland add sections to the semen, which is the fluid in which the sperm flows. The seminal vesicles are the base of the bladder and has a duct that joins with the vas deferens. The prostate gland is a single gland in the shape of a donut that surrounds the superior part of the urethra but below the urinary bladder. Bulbourethral glands are peanut-sized organs that are below the prostate on one side of the urethra. External organs. The penis is the male organ in the intercourse. It has a long and enlarged tip called glans penis, which is covered at birth by the foreskin. The shaft of the penis has a springy erectile tissue containing distinctive blood spaces. When excitation occurs, the arteries in the penis relax and widens, thus increasing the blood flow, causing it to become enlarged and erect. With sexual stimulation, sperm enters the urethra from the vasa deferentia with help of seminal secretions, and with rhythmic muscle contractions, semen can be ejaculated from the body. The scrotum helps to regulate the temperature of the testes by holding them closer or farther from the body. Any activity that increases testicular temperature can decrease sperm production, and thus get you infertile. And yes, testes are inside of the scrotum. Number 2. Hypothalamus and pituitary gland. The hypothalamus controls the function of the testes because it secretes gonadotropin-releasing hormone, or GnRH. This hormone stimulates the anterior pituitary gland in order to secrete gonadotropic hormones which control the testes. The gonadotropic hormones are follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, and luteinizing hormone, LH. FSH promotes the promotion of sperm in the seminiferous tubules, and LH promotes the production of testosterone by the interstitial cells. These hormones are controlled by the negative feedback mechanisms.
The labia majora enclose and protect the other external reproductive organs. The labia majora contains sweat and oil-secreting glands. The labia minora can be very small or up to 2 inches wide. They lie just inside the labia majora and surround the openings of the vagina and urethra. The Bartholin glands are located beside the vaginal opening and produce a fluid secretion. The clitoris is covered by a fold skin called the prepuce, which is similar to the foreskin at the end of the penis. Like the penis, the clitoris is very sensitive to stimulation and can become erect. The vagina is a canal that joins the cervix to the outside of the body. It also is known as the birth canal. The uterus is a hollow pear-shaped organ that is the home to a developing fetus. The uterus is divided into two parts, the cervix, which is the lower part that opens into the vagina, and the main body of the uterus, called the corpus. The corpus can easily expand to hold a developing baby. A channel through the cervix allows sperm to enter and menstrual blood to exit. The ovaries are small, oval-shaped glands that are located on either side of the uterus. The ovaries produce eggs and hormones. The fallopian tubes are narrow tubes that are attached to the upper part of the uterus and serve as tunnels for the egg cells to travel from the ovaries to the uterus. Conception normally occurs in the fallopian tubes. The fertilized egg then moves to the uterus where it implants into the lining of the uterine wall. The ovaries produce the female egg cells called the ova or oocytes. The oocytes are then transported to the fallopian tube where fertilization by sperm may occur. The fertilized egg then moves to the uterus, where the uterine lining has thickened in response to the normal hormones of the reproductive cycle. The hymen is a membrane that surrounds or partially covers the external vaginal opening. It forms part of the vulva or external genitalia and is similar in structure to the vagina. The hymen does not seem to have a specific physiological function. The urethral opening is where urine exits the urethra. The various functions of the body are regulated by the nervous system and the hormonal system. Both these systems are involved in controlling the activity of the female reproductive system in a regular monthly series of events known as the menstrual cycle. Now a brief explanation of the hormones regulating the female reproductive system. Tropin-releasing hormone is produced by a part of the brain called the hypothalamus. When it circulates in the blood, it causes the release of two important hormones, from the pituitary gland and in another specialized part of the brain. The follicle-stimulating hormone is produced by the pituitary gland during the first half of the menstrual cycle. It stimulates the development of the matrix ovarian follicle and controls ovum production in the female. The luteinizing hormone is also produced by the pituitary gland in the brain. It stimulates the ovaries to produce estrogen and progesterone. It triggers ovulation, and it promotes the development of the corpus luteum. The estrogen is a female reproductive hormone produced primarily by the ovaries in the non-pregnant woman. It promotes the maturation and release of an ovum in every menstrual cycle. It is also produced by the placenta during the pregnancy. And progesterone is produced by the corpus luteum in the ovary. Its function is to prepare the endometrium for the reception and development of the fertilized ovum. It also suppresses the production of estrogen after ovulation has occurred. The ovarian cycle governs the preparation of endocrine tissues and releases of eggs, while the menstrual cycle governs the preparation and maintenance of the uterine lining. These cycles occur currently and are coordinated over a 22 to 32-day cycle, with an average length of 28 days. The first half of the ovarian cycle is a follicular phase, with slowly rising levels of FSH and LH, cause the growth of follicles on the surface of the ovary. This process prepares the egg for ovulation. As the follicles grow, they begin releasing estrogens and a low level of progesterone. Progesterone maintains the endometrium to help ensure pregnancy. The trip through the fallopian tube takes about 7 days. At this stage of development, called the morula, there are 30 to 60 cells. If pregnancy implantation does not occur, the lining is slaughtered off. After about 5 days, estrogen levels rise and the menstrual cycle enters the proliferative phase. The endometrium begins to regrow, replacing the blood vessels and glands that deteriorated during the end of the last cycle. In the middle of the cycle, the high level of estrogen causes FSH and especially LH to rise rapidly, then fall. The spike in LH causes ovulation. The most mature follicle ruptures and releases its egg. The follicles that did not rupture degenerate and their eggs are lost. The level of estrogen decreases when the extra follicles degenerate. Following ovulation, the ovarian cycle enters its luteal phase, and the menstrual cycle enters its secretory phase. The luteal and secretory phases refer to changes in the ruptured follicle. The cells in the follicle undergo physical changes and produce a structure called a corpus luteum. The corpus luteum produces estrogen and progesterone. The progesterone facilitates the regrowth of the uterine lining and inhibits the release of further FSH and LH. The uterus is being prepared to accept a fertilized egg, should it occur during this cycle. The inhibition of FSH and LH prevents any further eggs and follicles from developing, while the progesterone is elevated. The level of estrogen produced by the corpus luteum increases to a steady level for the next few days. If no fertilized egg is implanted into the uterus, the corpus luteum degenerates and the levels of estrogen and progesterone decrease. The endometrium begins to degenerate and the progesterone levels drop, initiating the next menstrual cycle. The decrease in progesterone also allows the hypothalamus to say GnRH to the anterior pituitary, releasing FSH and LH and starting the cycles again.
Now we will talk about birth control and how they work to prevent pregnancy and sexual transmitted diseases. For avoiding this, we have the abstinence, which basically means when the person is not sexual active and is 100% effective with preventing pregnancy and having a sexual transmitted disease. The vasectomy, it is a surgery to cut the vas deferens, which are the ones that carry the sperm from the testicles to the urethra. After a vasectomy, the sperm cannot leave the testicles. A man who has had a successful vasectomy cannot get a woman pregnant. Talking about pregnancy, this is 99 to 100% effective, but it has no effect of avoiding a sexual transmitted disease. A tubal ligation is a surgical procedure from sterilization in which a woman's fallopian tubes are clamped or blocked and sealed, either of which prevents eggs from reaching the uterus from implantation. This birth control method is 99% effective against pregnancy, but it doesn't prevent a sexual transmitted disease. The oral contraception are medication that prevents pregnancy. They are one method of birth control. Oral contraceptives are hormonal preparation that may contain combination of the hormones estrogen and progestin or progestin alone. This is 95% effective against pregnancy, but it has 0% efficiency against sexual transmitted disease. The contraceptive implants, they work in a similar way to the pills. The implant, a small thin flexible rod, contains a hormone that helps to prevent pregnancy. The implant is 4 centimeters long and it is made of plastic. This is 99% efficient against pregnancy, but it has 0 efficiency with sexual diseases. The IUD works by releasing copper ions into your cervix. No hormones here. Copper makes your uterus a pretty hostile environment for sperm. Your cervix begins to produce a thin mucus that sperm can navigate through to get to your egg. This birth control is 99% effective against pregnancy, but it has no efficiency with sexual diseases. The diaphragm, it is a contraceptive device that consists of a flexible and thin piece of disc that is placed on the cervix and prevents the entry of sperm. This is 88% effective against pregnancy, but it has no efficiency with avoiding sexual diseases. The male condom, it is a varied device in the form of sheath placed on the penis, used during sexual relationship to reduce the likelihood of pregnancy or the spread of sexual transmitted infections. This birth control method is to 85 to 98% efficient against pregnancy and is 99% effective against avoiding sexual diseases. The female condom is a contraceptive barrier method of vaginal use alternative to male condoms. The female condom provides protection against pregnancy and also against infection that spread during sexual contact, such as HIV. This method is 95% efficient against pregnancy and is 50% efficient against sexual diseases. The coitus interruptus is a method of contraception in which a couple has sex, but the penis is removed prematurely and the semen is ejaculated outside the vagina. This method is to 78 to 85% efficient against pregnancy, but it has 0% efficient against sexual diseases. The natural family planning is when the couple use the calendar to know when to have sex and if they want to be pregnant or they want to avoid pregnancy. They use the fertilized days and the infertilized days, and this method is 25% efficient if it is well used against pregnancy, and it has 0 efficient against sexual diseases. The morning after pill is a pill that is taken within 72 hours and preferably within 12 hours after a contraceptive accident of unprotected sex. It can prevent pregnancy by doing one of 3 things: temporarily stop the release of an egg from the ovary, prevents fertilization, and prevents a fertilized egg from attaching to the uterus. This method is 99% efficient against pregnancy, but it still has 0% efficient against sexual diseases.